Praise the Lord, everybody, and God bless you on this wonderful day. I hope that everyone is doing well during this pandemic and that you guys are using wisdom and being led by the Holy Spirit in all things when it comes to your health and your safety and your family. I've been keeping you guys in prayer, and I believe that we are going to get through this. Maybe a little worse for wear, but I believe that God is faithful and that He's going to bring us through this. Well, I'm coming before you today because I never would have imagined doing a part 2 to the video Cheating, Rejection, Divorce, and Deadbeats. But sadly, due to a recent event in my life, I feel that a part 2 is necessary. This video is going to reinforce what I wrote about in my book and what I've been talking about since I started doing these videos. And this video may be a little lengthy because I felt that some of the details were necessary to get my point across. So I'm just going to go ahead and just start the video. On February 20th, the day after I did my last video, I received a Facebook message from my nephew letting me know that my brother had died. I didn't get the message until late that night, and I tried to call him back, but there was no answer, so I figured he was asleep. I saw where he left my sister's phone number, so I called her. We hadn't talked since 2 years ago, since my sister's passing at her funeral, and before that we hadn't talked in years. Not because we angry at each other or anything like that, but just that our age differences is so stretched out that I didn't grow up with them. I grew up with their children, but that's neither here or there. But I guess that I needed to say that to get an understanding. Well, anyway, she answered the phone and we exchanged, pleasantries. Then I proceeded to ask her what happened to our brother. And she told me that he died of a heart attack and a stroke, which was not related to his wound. And I thought that was odd and wondered what she could be talking about, but I continued to let her talk. And she went on to share with me that our brother was in PG hospital and that one day when she went to visit him, he was gone. So she went to speak to the nurses at the nurses station and no one could explain our brother's disappearance. She continued by telling me that she went off on the staff because of this and also because they couldn't provide her with any discharge papers for him. So she wanted to know why anyone didn't call her, and they told her that they did not have her information. She told me that she could not find our brother for 3 months. Then one day she happened to find out that he was in a rehabilitation center in Silver Spring. This was after being transferred from Holy Cross Hospital. When I could finally get a word in, I asked her very quickly how he ended up in a rehabilitation center. She responded by saying that she believed that our aunt and uncle, or his son, secretly discharged him from PG Hospital, moved him to Holy Cross Hospital, then transferred him to the rehabilitation center, because that would be the only way he could end up in this type a rehabilitation center in an upscale neighborhood. So, not knowing the full story, I thought that maybe she had a point when it came to my aunt and uncle, because when it comes to sickness and death in the family, they always seem to be involved, in some way or another. You guys know how family are. As I'm taking all this information in, it still doesn't add up, but I continue to listen. Besides, anyone who knows my sister know that when she's talking, you can't get a word in edgewise. So I continue to let her talk without interrupting her again. She told me how she went to the rehabilitation center to see him and how his hair and beard had grown out and that he looked like Frederick Douglass. And when she asked him, did he want her to get his hair cut, she claimed he told her no. She even told me that my brother had gotten better and that he was out in the hallway flirting with the nurses. So, okay, my brother was a big flirt, so I didn't, think anything was strange about that. She also said that once she found him, that she instantly went to get power of attorney over him and that she had just started receiving disability checks for him. She said she had like 30,000 in back payments due to him. I thought that was strange, but I didn't say anything. Another thing that she said was on one particular visit to the rehabilitation center, they had his hands covered and tied to the bed rails. She said that she asked the doctors why, and he told her that our brother had received some type of trauma to his body. I cut in again to ask her where the trauma came from. She said that she believed his son was abusing our brother when he visited him. Now, while listening to this, all I could do is shake my head because I truly did not know what to believe. Again, my daughter and I just listened to everything she had to say, but we both knew something was not right with her story. So the conversation ended by her asking me if I was coming home for his funeral, and I told her yes. We exchanged numbers, and I asked her to keep me posted concerning the funeral arrangements. That night, I went to bed, and with so many questions on my mind, I shared them with God, and I asked Him to help me to fall asleep because it was just overwhelming. The next morning, I received a call from my nephew, the one who messaged me and told me that my brother died. I told him that I talked to my sister last night and shared with him everything she told me. Then I began to ask him questions about my brother, and I found myself not prepared for the answers he would give me. My nephew told me that my sister's boyfriend, TR, stabbed my brother, and that's how he ended up in the hospital. I asked him, when did this happen? And he told me that it happened in the fall of 2018. When I heard this, you guys, I was floored because I thought his hospitalization, forgive me guys, and rehabilitation was a recent occurrence. He told me that my brother and TR was in the house by themselves. An argument ensued between the two of them over turning the channel on the television. And they started to fight, and TR stabbed my brother. My nephew said that TR did 3 months in jail for the stabbing. Then my nephew said to me, I wonder if they will reopen the case since Rodney died. Now, Rodney is my brother's first name, but sometimes we call him Rodney Craig, and I'll switch between the two. So that's who I'm talking about, my brother. That's his name. Okay, so he mentioned about, I lost my train of thought, guys. He mentioned about them reopening the case. And I thought to myself, are you seriously concerned about a case being reopened on the man who stabbed your uncle? Well, my nephew went on to tell me that he went to visit Rodney while he was at PG Hospital and that my brother opened his eyes when he heard his voice, but he doesn't think that my brother knew it was him. I was shocked and so upset upon hearing this information that I didn't even know what else to say. And as my nephew continued to share information, so many thoughts came to my mind. Like, why didn't anyone let me know what happened to my brother? And how could they keep something so serious from me? In that moment, I began to understand why I felt as if my sister was hiding something when I would talk to her. She never mentioned during the whole conversation that TR, stabbed our brother because, still trying to protect his identity, guys. So just bear with me because it's a lot. Okay, now, um, which made me realize, you guys, that she was talking about his wound when she kept saying he didn't die from a heart attack or a stroke. I mean, he died from a heart attack and a stroke, but he didn't die from his wound. So I began to think that the information she gave me was all in an effort to protect her boyfriend. And I felt in that moment that my nephew was trying to protect him as well, but I just didn't know why. So after getting off the phone with my nephew, I called my husband to tell him the news because it was too late to call him after I spoke with my sister that night. And he was just as shocked as I was upon hearing this information. And the first thing he said was, why didn't anyone call and tell you what happened to your brother? Now, believe me, I wanted to know the same thing. And he also asked me, why did TR only get 3 months for stabbing your brother? And I wanted to know that too, you know? Well, I got off the phone with Gerald, after, we chatted for a while. And then I received a call from my cousin Cece, which was unexpected. And she was calling to see if I had heard that my brother had died. I told her yes, and then I proceeded to tell her that I just found out what happened to him. She gasped because she thought that I knew what happened to my brother. She couldn't believe that my sister, nieces, or nephews did not tell me. And I shared with her what my sister and nephew told me, and she was in disbelief. Cece told me that they told her that my brother died of pneumonia and a staph infection. That's when I told her my sister told me he died of a heart attack and a stroke. She replied, why would they tell you that? I got quiet for a few seconds because I thought to myself, why would my sister lie about his cause of death? Then Cece said to me, Teresa B, because that's what she called me. She just don't call me Teresa, but she called me Teresa B. TR just didn't stab your brother. He gutted him like a fish. They said that when the ambulance arrived, he was trying to hold in his guts. I asked her who called the ambulance for Rodney, and she didn't know. She went on to tell me that she and her son visited my brother in the hospital a month or two after the incident. She said that he was incubated and he probably did not know they were there. She let me know that there was no way that Rodney could have been up flirting with nurses because he was incubated and didn't even know she and her son was there to visit him. So my sister was lying about this. She even shared with me that she looked under the covers to see what had been done to him. And she said, Teresa B., he was cut from hip to hip. You guys, this information deeply saddened me. And it also angered me. Well, Cece suggested that I call our cousin Rich to see if he could provide me with more information about what happened. So I called Rich and he told me that he was sorry for what happened to my brother. He shared with me that TR and Craig were in the house by themselves and something went down, but he didn't know what, and TR stabbed Craig. So I asked him who called the ambulance. He said that TR did, along with turning himself over to the police. I asked him, could my brother ever talk to tell his side of the story? And he told me no. He said a week after my brother was in the hospital, he caught a staph infection and that they had to incubate him, and he had been that way to the day he died. Also, that my sister was not visiting our brother, nor was anyone else really. So, without next of kin, they could have moved him to another hospital and then to that rehabilitation center. I told him thanks for telling me what he knew and said goodbye. It seemed as if the more people I talked to, the madder and the sad I got about this whole situation. It was just blowing my mind. I then called my niece Nat to see if she knew that her uncle had passed. She didn't know. And she also didn't know that he had been stabbed by TR and that he had been in 2 hospitals and a rehabilitation center. I shared with her what her aunt and other family members told me about Rodney Gray, and she was in disbelief. But she did share something with me that I did not know about PG Hospital. She used to work security there, and since PG is a trauma hospital, she said they probably moved Rodney to Holy Cross due to the nature of his injury. She said that when they get victims of violence, sometimes they move them to other hospitals in order to protect them and their staff, because there have been situations where people have come up to the hospital to finish off their victims. And after she told me this, I decided to do some research to see what I could find, because I knew if I called my sister to ask questions, she would supply none or just spin this whole situation like Donald Trump, okay? So I couldn't find anything. But a while later, a couple hours later, Shawnee found something. And what she found out was that TR was charged with assault first degree, assault second degree, reckless endangerment, and dangerous weapon um, openly with intent to injure. And again, he only did 3 months for this. So when I found this out, I was deeply saddened by this information, and I became even more stressed than I already was. And it seemed like the more information I obtained about what happened to my brother, the worse it got. And all this was going on while I was taking classes, 2 classes. And I was already stressed out by that, and it was just it was just overwhelming, you guys. It was just really overwhelming. On top of all that was going on, my ex-husband had his niece to call my house 3 days after finding out my brother had passed. I only answered the phone because I saw her name and I thought it was an emergency concerning her grandmother since she had never called before. Well, turns out she was calling to tell Shawnee and Jay that their dad might have to have open heart surgery because he has a cyst on his heart. Also, that their dad had been trying to contact them and really needed to speak to them. Now, I knew that he had been calling Shawnee like a crazy person for about a month, but Shawnee refused to answer his calls because she said that he didn't want anything, Ma. She said the only time he calls her like that is when something is going bad in his life and when his other children is taking him through hell. And she just didn't want to hear. Well, Shawnee ended up calling him back, and sure enough, he just wanted to let Shawnee and Justin know that he was sick. Then he went into this whole spiel about how much he loved them and that they were family and they should stay connected with one another. I wanted to vomit because I knew it was a game. Like I said in the last video, you guys, these deadbeats just be trying to gain access by any means necessary. If it's by having a phone number, an email address, or your actual physical address, they don't really want nothing. And they really don't want to have a genuine relationship with their children. It's just sickening. And a few days later, as I was sharing my heart with God concerning, my brother, he interrupted my thoughts and he said to my spirit that their father was so selfish. He went on to say that he says that he loves them, but if someone were to ask him what is Shanti's favorite color or what is Justin's lifelong dream, he wouldn't even be able to give that person an answer. Why? Because he doesn't know them. And how can you love them when you've never spent any time with them and don't know anything about them? And he went on to say, how does he expect them to love him when they don't know anything about him except that he's their biological father? Hmm. I'm sorry, you guys. And he added just one more thing. It takes more than just one phone call, one visit, or one gift to prove that you love someone. And the scripture that comes to mind is 1 John 3:18 that talks about love is shown by action and in truth. You have to show people that you love them. And not just one time. Like he said, consistently, on a consistent basis. And you got to be truthful. Anyway, to prove my point of what I was saying and what I said in the last video, he hasn't even called them since that day. That's why I said these deadbeat dads need to stop with their foolishness. Guys, before I go on, I just ask that you bear with me while I'm doing this video because it has been difficult for me. So just please bear with me while I try to say what I feel led to say. Well, after this, I had a conversation with my nephew to ask him why he didn't tell me what happened to my brother, since me and him are the only ones that stay in contact with each other, throughout the year. He'll hit me up on my birthday, I'll hit him up on his birthday, holidays and stuff. Only other person I talk to is my niece Nat. Well, he had no answer. So I said to him that it seems as if you are protecting TR. And for what reason, I don't know yet. But for argument's sake, let's put the shoe on the other foot. What if someone had stabbed your brother and I knew about it but never told you? But when your brother died, you found out I knew about everything. How would you feel? Or what if my sister's son was stabbed by one of his wife's family members and his wife didn't tell my sister about it until her husband died a week later? I said, my sister would lose her mind. And then I said to him, what if my husband stabbed Rodney and I didn't tell my sister, you, or any other family member about what happened? But when he died, you guys learned the truth. You all will be wondering, what did I have to hide? And my sister, your aunt, would make it her business to call my local police department to report me as an accessory to the murder of our brother. And you know that to be true. I said, because this just don't make no sense. Well, after hearing me out, he agreed with what I said and apologized, for not telling me. And I appreciated that and I accepted his apology. You know, um, it's just like when your heart is grieved like this, overthink something like this, sometimes you just need to know that, you're not tripping. Well, after a few days later, my nephew called me to tell me that my sister decided not to have a funeral for Rodney, just a memorial dinner at some restaurant. And upon hearing this, you guys, I was livid. And right then and there, I decided I was not going to go home. And also that I didn't even want to talk to her, because I knew that if I did, I would say some things that I could never take back. And as a prophetess, I've learned over the years that in some instances, you have to choose your words wisely. And in other instances, it's best to keep my mouth shut because I understand that my words carry weight with God. And I thank God for this understanding, and it's something I learned from my former pastor years ago, So it was like, I'm not going home. I can't even say nothing to my sister. And God, you're going to have to help me get through this and process this some kind of way. I want you all to know that I thank the Lord for his intercession on my behalf concerning this entire situation. I also thank Gerald and Shawnee and Justin and Nicole and Anna and Camille for a listening ear and for their prayers, because my brother's death and the circumstances surrounding his death have grieved my soul and spirit to no end. I know that if our mother was alive, she would bust less she would bust my sister in her face and she would shoot TR dead. Okay? Cause this is a hot mess. And the part that has grieved me so is because my sister never contacted me to inform me of what happened to our brother. And her behavior in this matter is troubling for several reasons. One, because our brother was stabbed by her boyfriend, whom I've known, whom she's been with since I was a young girl. Her children were little. I was probably maybe 10, 9, somewhere in that age. I'm going to say between 10 and 12 when she got with him. Two, our brother never got a chance to tell his side of the story. So I'm only hearing her side or other people's, what they've shared with me. So I just don't know. 3, she kept this information hidden from me for a year and 5 months. A year and 5 months. I would have at least gone to visit my brother once a month. You know what I'm saying? Once a month, or stayed up there if, well, maybe I could have stayed with my niece. You know what I'm saying? For a couple of days each month and come. I mean, 4, she took it upon herself to become his power of attorney. And I find this disturbing, due to the nature of her and TR's relationship. Another thing, an autopsy was not done. And I just find that suspect, again, due to the nature of her and TR's relationship. The other thing that just grieves me is that you told me he died of a heart attack and a stroke, while everybody else who I talked to told me he died from pneumonia and a staph infection. That's what she was telling them. So, what's the truth? How did he die? She has all the paperwork, she has all the, and the last thing is that she didn't even give him no funeral. It was like he just didn't matter. And maybe he didn't to her. Maybe he didn't for whatever reason. But he may have mattered to somebody else. And she didn't give people a chance to pay their last respects and to share their stories about him, However she may have felt about him, okay, but he had different relationships with different people. And so even my niece Net shared with me how, like on our family Facebook page, I'm not a member of it, but how my aunt and my two cousins shared fond memories of how he was a storyteller and he made people laugh. And I thought about how I would share about how my brother was a good street ball player. And we lived in Southeast in the hood. There was basketball courts behind Johnson Junior High School. And in the evenings, I would follow him down to the basketball court and they would play basketball and he would have them other brothers on the court cracking up. And they loved when he came to play with them because he would talk smack, but it would be funny. He would have them cracking up. And he was a good storyteller. He wasn't perfect, but he surely didn't deserve to die like that and never be able to tell his side of what happened. The other thing that just bothers me is to see how my sister has wasted her life by being tied to a useless piece of flesh. You see, ladies, I remember the beauty my sister once possessed inside and out. And I remember the value that my sister once had. And I remember how she wouldn't let me go outside with rollers in my hair or looking ragtag. I remember these things. You know, this was the same woman who painted the peanut characters around my entire room freehand when I was a little girl. And I watched her do this and saw how Charlie Brown and Linus and Snoopy came alive in my room. This is the same woman who brought me my first dictionary and helped me with my homework and helped me to learn how to read. And this is the same woman who taught her children how to read and write before they entered kindergarten. This is the same woman who could have been a tenured professor at any top university teaching African American studies, American history, or art. Ladies, I want this video to be a warning to you who watch this video that who you date, marry, and have children with is a serious matter. So please don't take these messages lightly. God is not allowing me to share my experiences for entertainment purposes, but as a warning and a tool to help those in bondage to get set free. No man is worth your salvation. No man is worth the destruction of your life or the lives of your children. So I pray that this video will help somebody, even if it's one person. And the sad thing is that even when I was talking to my sister, she mentioned that she read my book. And she said, you had to write that book. It had to be written. And she said, and I know that God made you write that book. With that being said, you guys, I love you with the love of the Lord. I ask that you will remember me and my family in your prayers, even as I pray for you all. And until next time, obey God. Bye.